All right, so now we move on to our playoff picks, and this is difficult. I have expressed several times that I believe there's five teams and then a drop off. Only four can make it, which by definition means there will be a national title contender that is a a tier one team, in my opinion, that does not make the playoff. Is that kind of the way you view it too, or how are you looking at this potential season?
For sure. Right now, it seems like there's five teams in a drop off, but I do think in that middle tier, I think by the time the season's over and these teams are actually being selected for the playoff, I think we'll see several teams from the middle tier jump up and make it muddy at the end. I don't right now it seems very clear cut as to five really top teams and then a drop off. I don't think it's going to stay that way, though. I look at teams like Oregon and USC from out west, Iowa State, possibly even North Carolina, teams that could kind of come up into that discussion by the year's end.
So, assuming we have the top five, who is your sixth team, your second team out?
I'm and this is tough. It's between Oregon and USC. I'm going to go with Oregon just by a little bit. I have Oregon edging USC in the Pac-12 championship game. So Oregon is at 6 for me. I think it's a really good program under Cristobal. We've talked about all of this before. I think that the game week 2 against Ohio State is going to be a huge game. I think we'll learn a lot about them at that point.
Sure. My number six is Notre Dame. Bit of a homer pick, but I do think this team will probably go 11-1. And I think I see an 11-1 Notre Dame, most likely with 3 top 15 wins, if that were to happen, being slightly above a 12-1 Pac-12 champ Oregon. So that was a toss up for me. But yeah, I feel like that was, to me, it's still a drop off from 5 to 6. So number 6, yeah, it looks great. I don't know that it's that impressive compared to my top 5 teams. So who's your other team? Which one of these 5 teams? And again, to recap those 5 teams, according to pretty much everybody, including the AP poll, Alabama, Ohio State, Clemson, Oklahoma, and Georgia in some order. Who's out?
For me, and this is I've waffled on this like 3 times just this afternoon. We're recording this on an afternoon, and just thinking about it, you just go back and forth, and you some of the just I guess maybe my thought process was, who do you trust the most, and how do you not trust Clemson and Alabama? Like, you have to trust them, so no brainer. But then who has the most question marks? I mean, Alabama by I think a long shot has the most question marks. Like, they're replacing so much production, but you trust them so much too to replace that production. So can they just do it again? Yeah, I mean, you think so, and you feel dumb not putting Alabama in there. So it's going to be Ohio State for me as the kind of the team left out there at 5. I'm going to go with Ohio State. I guess maybe the replacement quarterback, just seeing if they can duplicate what they did the last 2 years with Justin Fields. They have an incredible receiver core, best receiver room in the country. Me and you both feel that way. So yes, for me, that's what I'm going to be going with. I think there's going to be maybe a little bit of a drop off, possibly on defense. I didn't like that they kept Kerry Combs there. For me, that is what is going to cost them.
Yeah, that's, man, like any pick you make here just feels like a bad pick.
It does. It really does.
I for what it came to, this is what it came down to for me. Of these 5 teams, 2 of them are in the same conference. So I need to pick between these 2 teams. And I just trust Alabama that much more than Georgia. So even though I feel like this could be the year, like Georgia might actually win the national title this year, they're my 5 for my predictions. I guess I just trust them the least. And that feels kind of weird to say because I actually really like this team this year. And I could very easily see this being wrong. Could see them winning it all this year. So, yeah. There's no good way to choose a number 5 out of these 5 teams. But that gets down to your number 4. Who is going to be the last team in?
For me, it's Clemson, and it's not going to be because Clemson's challenged or really under threat of getting left out. I think they're going to walk through the ACC again this year. I just think that the lack of good teams that they play in the conference schedule is going to lead to them not having as impressive of a resume at the end of the year. I have them ranked number 4.
Okay. I like this Clemson team a lot. I have them just higher. My number 4 is Oklahoma. I do think Oklahoma will probably lose a game somewhere, but I expect them to be a 12-1 champ. Um, and this is a dangerous team. Like this is going to be an incredible offense. We know that, and the defense seems like it's turning around. It might still possibly be the worst defense of these top 5 teams. I would say either them or Ohio State would be the 5th defense. So I have Oklahoma at 4, slightly over Georgia, just behind Clemson. These are razor thin margins. So they're my number 4. Who's your number 3? I already said I got Clemson. Who do you have at number 3?
For me, it's Georgia. For me, it's Georgia. I think they'll lose to Alabama in the SEC championship game. And I think the SEC will get 2 teams in this year. I think it will be Alabama and Georgia. Georgia's number 3 for me.
All right. I have Clemson number 3. We mentioned that. Number 2. Who's your number 2 team?
Oklahoma makes it. I think this is I think the year for Oklahoma. Unbelievable offense. I mean, just incredible. It's okay. Now we all considered. I also was one of those that just wanted to just outlaw Oklahoma from playing in the postseason ever again, ever. They are no longer allowed to make the playoff. I have changed my opinion. I'm ready to see it. I think they're more complete. We've talked about this in the Big 12 podcast that we did, just about this being maybe the most complete team that Lincoln Riley's ever had there. I think it is. The weapons are there. The offense is going to be prolific. Again, it always is. I think having a few just dudes on defense that they didn't have years past is going to be a huge benefit for them. For me, Oklahoma at number 2.
Sure. I have Ohio State at number 2. This might be the best offense in the country. I mean, it sounds kind of like maybe that's where our difference is. Just you might have Oklahoma as the number 1 offense in the country. I might have Ohio State as the number 1 offense in the country. And again, we're talking razor thin margins here. Questions for them for sure in the back 7, the defensive backs and linebackers. But man, this team, like this offense, it's so loaded, and I really hope they don't win the national title. As someone who really does not like Ohio State, but they're scary good this year, in my opinion. Number 1, that leaves Alabama.
Alabama for me. Yeah, I have them winning the SEC. I think they'll go undefeated. Not a whole lot of threat to them in the regular season. I don't think they have a tough game against Florida, another tough game against Texas A&M. So those are kind of two moderately difficult games. I think they're just more talented than those teams. Cruise to it. I think the only really troubling game for them would possibly be in the SEC championship against Georgia. That game, coin flip game, could go either way. Trust Saban, greatest coach of all time. How can you not put him in the playoff? That was my I think it was kind of what it came down to more than anything else for me, is that you trust Alabama just to replace people, more than that, to replace coaches. He's done it consistently for years now. I don't think this year will be any different. Alabama, number 1 for me.
And they're also number 1 for me, and for basically the exact same reason. I looked at these 5 teams. I already mentioned how I had to eliminate somebody. I chose Georgia because they're in the same conference as Alabama. And Alabama, like if you have to break a tie between 5 different teams, why not just pick the team that you trust the most year to year? Nick Saban, greatest coach of all time. So yeah, I expect Alabama to go undefeated. Same thing you said, 13-0 going to the playoff. So that leads up to our matchups. You have, I should have written yours down. Why don't I just share my 1-4 matchup, which would be Alabama, Oklahoma. Alabama is who I have making championship game in that game. Then I have Ohio State, Clemson. For years there, we saw Alabama play Clemson every year. Now we might see Ohio State play Clemson every year. And I do have Ohio State winning that game, kind of breaking the tie of the last 3 years. So Alabama and Ohio State is what I'm picking for the championship game, which is exactly what we just saw. Very boring pick. And then I have Alabama win the national title. I do think by that part of the year. Like all these first year starters on Alabama, like they're going to be very experienced by that point of the year, of course. And I just think they're slightly better than everyone else. I just trust them more than anybody else. So Alabama is my national title pick. What about you? Your 1-4 matchup, your 2-3 matchup, and then your championship pick.
The 1-4 matchup is Alabama Clemson. Same old, same old. Yeah, kind of the same story there. Like Alabama, trust them more for all the reasons that we just gave. So Alabama wins that, goes to the championship for me. The 2-3 is just a repeat of the Rose Bowl from 2017. It's Georgia and Oklahoma. I like Oklahoma. I think this is their year. I think they go on and beat Alabama, win the title this year. I think it's time. They've been so close, knocked on the door so many times. I think their quarterback, I will say, I think Spencer Rattler has the chance to be better than any quarterback that they've had there. And that is very impressive to say, given the names that have come through there. So I think this could be their best year, their most complete year. And I think this is the year Oklahoma gets it done.
I like that. I like that you're going a little different. I went pretty much chalk, but that's what I came up with. I like that you came up with something different. For me, Oklahoma, of these 5 teams, they feel like they're the most likely to lose 2 games. It also feels like if they hit their absolute ceiling, like they might actually win the national title. So yeah, those are our playoff picks, some predictions there.